All right, we're recording. Welcome everyone to a very special day of IS-50A game development. We've got a guest lecturer here. His name is Jeff, also known as Preacherman. We were on a Quake clan together. I guess still are technically, from the '90s, and he has worked in industry for a while. And since I know a lot of you guys are taking this class because you're interested in maybe possibly working in the games industry someday, he is here to provide you with expert, informed opinions and facts and opinions and things like that on the games industry. So, without further ado, Jeff, take it away.
All right, thanks, Bill. Um, so where to start? How about how I started? I started coming up from the bottom, from testing. Started through testing to lead testing. I worked on many different games, and I worked for Midway Home Entertainment, the company that brought you Mortal Kombat and oh boy, a lot, um, as well as um, the majority of pinball machines and poker gambling and, and video poker in Vegas. So they were a pretty big company, had a lot of money. And at that time, they were about the third largest. So again, big company. And that kind of matters because how big a company is, what its interests are, they all kind of align and are important. Into how things are going to go for you as a developer or something else. And that something else is what I did. I did a little bit of developing. I did level editing. I worked on the N64 version of Quake, and the levels had to be edited. And yeah, I slipped in a few little extra things in there. If anybody has an N64 these days, you can look for my work there. And I worked on a lot of little things here and there. Game Boy games, if anyone remembers, has heard of the Game Boy. Um, yes, like I said, I started in testing, went up through the ranks in that. Um, and in a company like that, they would even hire out the testing department, which was about 100 to 200 people strong. And from that, started looking elsewhere. I had various interests. Music, sound, that was another. I looked into that. That department was a little itchy at the time. So at that time, it was not a good time for me to go there. And then third party development. That opened up a production slot for me. And I went up into production, starting off as assistant producer, which eventually became producer. And in a company that size, you have about three levels of third party development production. And as developers, if you do want to develop, if you want to make games as programmers, artists, what have you, you're going to need to know about producers, us, because we're a pain in the butt. And that's our job to be, though, because we're talking about we're, we're talking about getting games out, the industry of video game production. And that necessarily has to deal with the problems of business. And that's reaching many people, advertising. Getting stamps from certain people. If you're making a game for Sony, Sony has to pass it. So you have to understand what they require. When you make a game, you kind of have to keep that in mind. Even when just designing the game, you think, what does Sony have coming out soon or has just released? And keep that in mind when thinking of submitting a game for Sony. or Nintendo or Microsoft? Let's see. Mostly, though, I worked in PC. That was my specialty at Midway. So I worked on PC ports of console games a lot of the time because they were very console heavy. The majority of games are made for console, unless, of course, you count, well, all the number of...
The graph will say when...
Pardon? Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thought that was a question coming. That's fine. And if you guys have questions, yeah, stop me and, ask away. Okay. By the way, hi, Johnny. I was just talking about the production side of development, of getting a game out. Because that's kind of the name of the game, though, isn't it? Sure, you can make games all day in your basement with your friends, and you can get a... Oh. Sorry. I hope I didn't embarrass him. Yeah, okay. You can make games all day in your basement, but what you probably want, though, is for people to play your game. And to do that, you got to keep in mind what it takes to get it out there. And that's what a producer does. A producer is the glue of a team, making sure all the parts of a game company have what they need, that legal has what they need, manual writers. And again, we're talking about big company, not something especially important to small and independent companies, which is just as valid. You can get fine games from the small developer company. Valheim is a fantastic example of great success from a small team. Yeah. Which Mr. Kearney and I and another friend play pretty avidly. There's a lot of good things of that. And they are lucky, you could say it that way. They hit a mark because there is a certain amount of luck involved in... Oh, you haven't? Yep. I think we are just working on that. The publisher, the producer is a part of the publishing side of things. So a publisher has producers, okay? And they can have levels, like I mentioned. Executive producer, usually the money people. The producer, more hands-on, and some assistants, again, depending on how big the company is. The assistants and producers are, like I said, more hands-on. They tend to travel if that's necessary, if the developer is away, and they often are. When you're Midway, it wasn't a good company, and I'll tell you why. And this is an important thing too. Yeah, this is me talking muck on my old yeah. They were, well, they went with a style that couldn't last, and that was shotgunning many little games through fast production. Just get them out there. Avoid a company like that. It's probably not going to last, and you're not going to be happy, because that tends to send you right into what's called crunch culture. Crunch culture, well, yeah, the problem with them is they're rampant still, although it is fading, and thanks to... Yeah, it is. It's always a downward spiral. Never seen it work. And it just chucks out bad games, which you don't want to do. I'm sure you don't want to be a part of a crap game, you know? You want to avoid it like the plague. Now, how can you spot that? Well, try to, I want to say, meet employees of the company. Look for complaints about work time. When I was in that, okay, crunch time, by the way, refers to a very specific date, October 15th or 16th, actually, it depends. But it's mid-October. The reason that is an important date is your game has to be done, final, out of beta, and sent to production. That is, you got to start burning those discs. Do people still use those? Yeah. I mean, in the era of Steam, that's it's kind of null and void when you have the digital copies going. But some people do, and since that has lightened up considerably, now, and that's great. The crunch has been relaxed quite a bit, but it still exists. And there are those that are still working their workers to death, and that's everybody, except maybe the manual writer. And even legal. Legal has to be kind of on standby. If new content's going to be added, they need to check it thoroughly, send it to the lawyers, etc. So they're up to that point. That's called crunch time, and usually in the last 2 months. And in those 2 months, well, year after year, I would get worked about 16 hours a day minimum. I remember 20 hours a day in the last week leading up. You don't want that. That's going to cause you to burn right out of the industry. Don't do it. So avoid a company that does that. Yeah, big ones. Sony, by the way, is a good company to work for, I'll say. They are good with their workers. In fact, everybody in the company, no, not everybody, most people in the company get a tiny percent, but a percent of royalties of a game because they're acknowledging that the whole company is involved in getting a good game out. So yeah, I don't want to. I can't go down the list of who's good and who's not to work for today. But things to watch out for are the signs of those companies that want to shotgun games out there, rush production, rush development, I should say, and put their people through the crunch time. Now, crunch time is not an unknown thing in the rest of the world, in real life, so to speak. You get it with a movie production. You get it with a stage production. Any kind of performing art, you're going to kind of get that. But when it comes to games, it works counterproductively. You can't code on 4 hours of sleep. You can't code well. And well, art, yeah, I mean, artists are drawing in their sleep. I don't know what's, but they're always there. But sometimes they need to snap something out too. And unfortunately, a company that will do the rush job, they are, they're put under a huge amount of pressure. Everyone becomes so unhappy, and yeah, I would say you would too if you were put under that kind of pressure. And if you are put under that kind of pressure, just know you have options. You can leave. it hurts and it sucks too, but yeah, it's a thing. Right, exactly. But also, and this is where I'm going to tell you about being a producer, because one job of the producer is to crack the whip, so to speak. You have to do it, we had to do it well. Keep everyone going because, well, the tendency of designers is to design and creators to create and keep creating. And don't fall into that pit either. I'm saying obey your producer. If you trust him and you like him and it's working, let the producer produce. Um, that's how you're going to get a game out. If you need to change a character in your game that you designed as a smoker to a non-smoker, yes, this is a thing because it matters, and he or she does not want to have to explain it all to you because there's such a thing as the ESRB, and it's important because it might matter where your game can be shown and sold. And that's going to matter to your success in getting your game players. Of course, you might be really married to that character with the cigarette hanging out of the mouth, but these are the kinds of things that production has to really consider. And yeah, sometimes, you get a little directive from on high from an executive producer who says, no, make a character that looks like this. And it has nothing, it seemingly has nothing to do with your design concept. Yeah, you'll get a little nudge from above saying, hey, create like this. Careful with that too. Watch for that. But generally, executive producers are hands off, very hands off. Sometimes, though, they will have a desire that they'll want to pass on and see enacted. All right. Any questions so far? I hope I haven't scared you out of the industry yet. No. Cool. Cool. 5 years, actually, because that was crunch culture, and that after that, I said, ouch. Uh, and I know how it could be different. And would I do it again? Yeah, I would. Would I do it like that? No. Because hindsight is 2020. When you're in it, um, and if you don't have, or didn't get the guidance, because there were no classes like this back then in the 90s, not even the early 2000s, I think. No advice. You know, I lean towards um, indies. I met a lot. I I met a lot of people trying to production mode, and I saw their constant frustration. Um, did crunch culture? No, I don't think it did. Otherwise, I think it would have disappeared entirely to resurge. But I think it might have played a part. No, it was no, rather it was a recession. I think, as I saw it, a recession happened, and the entertainment industries in general took a hit because people have less luxury money. So that's, I think, maybe part of it. tell you about what to expect. And sorry, what was the hardest question you were ever asked during your interviews when working with game companies? Questions that, okay. Well, I mean, I had one interview or two interviews getting into Midway. I didn't work for anyone else but Midway. I worked with many other companies through Midway as a third-party producer. So, hardest question, though. Hardest question. Right. Yeah. Okay. Perhaps you're wondering. Well, I mean, I have my particular interests, and I like MMOs. I like FPS. I like hooks. I also like difference. I also like strange and imaginative. But going back though to Hayburn's question, what was a hard question? Hard question for me. You know, I can't think of. It was a really rather easy interview in terms of talking about games you've played, experience with games. That's what they talked about the most is what do you know? How do you know it? Perhaps the most challenging, though, was to describe modding. Modding because they were not aware of Quake and Quake mods because they needed a PC person. And sitting in that room, I was it, and they weren't. They didn't know to. They didn't know how to imagine what modding and online play was. And this is 90s, mind you. Today, completely different. So I'm not sure my answer is really going to help you too much. Yes, and you know, developers tend to be the gamers. Not all, not all. We had quite a few coders who were just great coders. They solved problems. Did not play much at all. Joust, yes, I worked on that. I worked on a port for that. And in a big company like that, you tend to cross, you tend to cross the office all the time. Somebody needs a voice in a game. Get into the studio. You just happen to be available. You're just waiting for ESRB, and sure, why not? I got 5 minutes. Yeah. At that time, we also had the motion capture studio. There was only about 2 or 3 of them around the nation at the time, and we got to play in that for a while. And yeah, there's downtime. There's time where you're really just waiting for something as a producer. As a tester, you're constantly, and by the way, don't disregard testing. You're going to learn a lot from testing. And it is work. Sure, you're playing games for a living, but you're working. If you are just playing, then you're not doing it right. Definitely. Let's see. I'm sorry, did I miss a question? Which language do I prefer to work in? Let's see. Also, let me back up a little here. Sorry, I think I missed some. Okay, as a producer, okay. Well, yeah, things with a hook, things that are different. But I was also working kind of against Midway at the time, and this is why a big company like this is a problem, because they have their certain kinds of games that they want to come out with, and they tend to be just copycat games, which sucks. Something Let's see, a driving game comes out, hits it big. Midway wants a driving game too to catch that wave. No, avoid a company like that. they're just shotgunning games out. Who designed the cabinets? Okay, I didn't work in the arcade department. That would have been in Chicago. So I couldn't tell you who designed those cabinets, or could I? No, I don't remember. I'm sorry. That was over 20 years ago. I'm old. Which language do I prefer to work in? Now, are you talking about coding? I didn't code very much at all. It only depends really on yeah. I mean, if I worked in a language, it was what I was taught by. It depends on who. If it's the coder for the game itself, it's whatever platform. I mean, back in '90s, that was C plus that I saw. C, C plus plus. But sometimes I had to work in assembly too. It depended. And that was on the Game Boy, by the way. Yeah, like I said, I'm not a coder. I didn't code so much. And the thing about production, though, you got to know a little bit about everything, about legal, about the possibilities of art, the limitations of your game in terms of, say, textures. Yeah. They were huge. They were ugly. Any other questions? I think I'm getting up to my limit here. I don't want to drag you guys all through this, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of what to expect from production and producers.
Yeah, thank you,
That
Jeff.
side.
I think the one question that students always ask is how do you break in? Like how do you get your foot in the door? You said it was testing for you, but for my students who are like maybe programmers, how do they break in?
I think like how you break into anything, pester the hell out of everybody that you want to work for. check out who you like. Let's say it's Konami. And their office is in Hawaii. Go to Hawaii. Not an issue, not a thing that you can just jump up and do. Yeah, hey, I'm moving to Hawaii to go try to work at Konami. But be visible. That's it. It's yeah, bring them a new resume. Um, yeah, a couple times a week. Bug them, annoy them. Don't worry about the reputation, because that works for you. You're on the radar. Even if you're buzzing a lot, don't worry about how you seem. That's right. That's right. You call them. Period. Really. That's it.
Did you ever go to like GDC or E3 and make contacts there?
That's a harder thing to do. That is another show. Yes. Is that a good way to break in? I would say no, because everyone is super busy. But that is a fantastic place to pitch a game. And pitching, that is something you want to work on. But also, I wanted to mention something else. On a larger production team, do learn to make a design document. That's going to be your guiding light through a real production. It's going to help you to get a game out. Do you know good publishers that work with indie game devs? I don't personally right now, because I've been out a while. I mean, I have known, but today it's a very quick changing industry. People come in and out. They move around. So yeah, no, they won't be in the same places now. I mean, I even worked with John Romero, who made Quake, who designed and made Quake. And there he was at Midway working on another project um, because he was tossed out basically for Quake 2 for not um, for for not doing very much. Unfortunately, his um, so yeah, people, it's a movable feast. Is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's an Irish developer now, of all
Okay.
things.
Sure. There is a lot of software development in Ireland. I don't know how that came to be a thing, but I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Any other questions?
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. It's really,
Thanks.
really good talking to you again and getting to play some Valheim with you. Sorry for not playing with you last night. I actually tucked my daughter into bed and fell asleep.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine.
I think I needed to
Yeah.
sleep. So.
Yeah. We found silver.
Aww.
Yeah, come get some.
All right.
I just wanted to ask you this last. How's it work? How is, uh, yeah, how was it like working with others? I'm a pretty social person in the first place, so for me, good. Um, yeah, working in a team, yeah, when you start to see your game come alive, you're gonna like it. You're gonna get up every day and you're gonna say, "Oh man, I games for a living."
Do you ever watch
Yeah,
people playing your game, like at an arcade, or just go over to somebody's
pardon.
house and see them? Have you ever seen like just people in the wild playing your game?
I also visit that chat world, Second Life, and just by coincidence, I came across a fanboy of an old of my first game that I produced, Body Harvest, and yeah, it it was kind of cool. No, I haven't seen anyone. Um, I mean, well, sure, yeah, I've seen plenty of people playing Joust. I can, you know, go visit any kind of pseudo arcade or what's left of them these days and see Joust and Defender and Gauntlet, um, and etc. And a few pinball machines too that I also worked on. Um, yeah, Defender, good, good. Galaga, and yeah, those old games, those old time that had a bit of a resurge in the '90s, and some ports onto platforms. People aren't playing those platforms these days, so no, I don't see that. Anyone here still have an N64? Sega Genesis? Game Boy? No? SNES? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, I did Defender for the SNES. I did a collection for the SNES.
You did the Midway Games collection.
Yeah,
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 nice. I own that. I own that.
nice.
I still got it. I'll send it to you so you can sign a copy for me.
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know if I was credited. You often don't get credited.
Mm.
At least a company like that. Someone like Midway will also rip you off. I mean, they've done that a couple times too. Took a game design of mine and said, no, we're gonna let you do that, Jeff. Um, and then they do it well, on their own, jerks. So yeah, avoid a company that'll do that as well. Be mindful that that can happen. Anyway, that's it. I've already said goodbye. So
All right, man. Thank you so much. Are you guys gonna be playing tonight?
probably,
Okay.
probably.
I'll,
Yeah.
I'll
I'll
try
look
not.
for you.
I'll try not to fall asleep tonight. Awesome.
All right, you
Thanks
guys
a lot, man.
take care and good luck and stay safe and all that. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. All right, so that was my friend Preacherman from the Quake days, and you played Pyro a lot, right, Jeff?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
I watched his front door.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, so that was very cool. That was very cool. We are gonna go over doors now, I guess. So let's see here. I'll share my screen. So my screen is watching Jeff's screen sharing. Let's see. Yeah, the infinite tunnel. Look at it.
Would you like me to stop streaming?
Yeah, if you like, it's just kind of funny.
Okay. Okay.
Why is there an infinite tunnel?
The infinite tunnel. I'm watching Jeff's screen and he's watching my screen, so creates an infinite tunnel effect. All right. The Infinity Stone. All right, so let's turn the camera on here. Can you play Skyrim? Yeah, go for it. Webcam, window projector. Why is that not working? There we go. All right. So everybody could fire up Unreal Engine. We're going to be talking a little more about doors and animations today. This class is a survey class on topics in game development. And so we're going to... we've gone over landscapes and how to texture landscapes, auto-texturing them. We've done a little bit of basic modeling, putting objects in the world and staircases and world building and stuff like that. I believe Jeff worked on the maps for Hydro Thunder. Is that right, Jeff?
No, for Quake for the N64.
So I visited you guys when you were working on Hydro Thunder, I think.
Yeah, I didn't do. I was working on. I was just helping testing with that.
Okay.
I actually wasn't a part of the team. So.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you guys taking me over to the development workstation and getting to play that before it came out to movie theaters all around the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so Unreal Engine, spring 2021. What else have we done? We've done dot product and cross product, so you can tell if something's in front or sideways of something. So today we're gonna do animations. We're gonna learn the basics of skeletal animations. Last time we animated a door, your very basic type of door, where in games like Quake, you just kind of walk up to it. You walk up, and then the door opens, and you walk through, and the door closes back up. And so, what's really funny was that last week, after I showed you guys, making the world's most basic door here, there was a Twitter thread that blew up about how difficult doors were to do and to do properly. And so the people that made Naughty Dog, the people that made The Last of Us, they had this whole Twitter thread about how much work they put into making doors work properly, because they don't want to have a door just kind of slide open when you look at it. They want to have a realistic looking door, and so they have a doorknob, and when you walk up to it, they were trying to make it so the character would do some inverse kinematics, so the hand would reach out to turn the door, and if you're walking quickly, they slam the door open, and then how do you shut the door behind you, because stealth is a big thing in the game, and they were talking about all the different things that went into making a really realistic door, and it's hard. And then you've got issues with AI pathfinding, can the AI walk through this area? You need to handle that. How does sound go through it? How do you attenuate sound on the other side of a door? It's a hard thing to get working right. So we didn't get into any of that detail. We did the world's simplest door, and where did I put that door? Where did I put the door? Wall door, SM door, door opening thing. Where are you? First person blueprints. Yeah, okay. So we'll put that into Bill. Let's move that into my directory. So all my stuff's in there. Okay. And all right. So I saw a lot of you guys were able to do that online. And then we could step it up a notch, and we could add more interesting doors. For example, we could make a door frame and put hinges on the door and have the door rotate around the door hinges, which would be kind of cool. But what I'd really like to get to today is talking about skeletal animation. So this is a kind of a boring basic animation. If we double click on this, you can see the animation was done using something called a timeline. And so we created a timeline, and the timeline is triggered when you enter that overlap zone. So there's that invisible zone that when the player walks into it, it triggers an overlap event. And so when the person begins overlapping, it starts playing the timeline. When they leave the overlap zone, it reverses the timeline, which causes the door to just close back up. And a timeline is just a very simple animation. So you have a keyframe and a keyframe. So at time 0, the door is at 0. At time 3, the door is at -1. And again, I usually have my timelines go from 0 to 1 or from 0 to +1 so that you can scale them separately. So if I have a taller door or a smaller door, then I just take the -1 and multiply it by the height of the door, or whatever I want it to do. And so you can add multiple keyframes if you want in there. So for example, if I want to have the door be broken, I could have it open and then slam shut and then open again. It should be kind of fun. Let's do that. Save it. Did you see my sliding doors? Use the timeline in your opening doors. Good. I haven't looked at your doors yet. I saw the pictures, but not the... So if we walk up to this one, you'll see the door open and then slam shut. Ah!
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, what is going on with that? It must be leaving the bounding box, which is causing it to reverse. Let's try it a little more modestly here. Let's walk in, door goes shut. Huh. I wonder if it's down there that it's doing that. So you can add keyframes however you want, and you can make very simple animations like that. What the hell is going on with this? It's rotating. Oh, it's because... Interesting. Never seen that before. It's interesting. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. Let's not do the rotate. Oh, it's because it's doing the rotate, not the... Okay, yeah, let's just have it move. Let's not have it rotate. Let's see if that makes a difference. Location Z, update, finish, direction, displacement, play, reverse. Because all the timeline is supposed to do is just give you a number from 0 to -1. Okay. Weird. Huh. Okay, that worked. What's going on with that? So it can move slower at first and then quicker later on. I wonder why it was flipping out like that. That's strange. Okay, so anyway, so that's your normal animation. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be learning about skeletal animation. So here I've got a mannequin, and you can import mannequins using the marketplace. If you go to the marketplace and click on there. If you just search for mannequin, let's see, pull you up here. There we go, marketplace. If you search for if you can spell it, mannequin, that, then let's see, there we go. Control rig mannequin, UE4 mannequin, optimized for mobile. Let's see, there's the military mannequins. Let's see, let's make sure it's free. And there we go, military style mannequins. And so this mannequin here has a couple more, I don't know, gritty looking mannequins with animations on them. So all you have to do is purchase it for free, click on add to your project, and then you will see that down here, after you add it to your project, you will see that there is a mannequin and there is a female mannequin. They actually just added a female mannequin to the default Unreal Engine mannequins. But it doesn't come with a first-person template, which is really, really kind of odd. It seems like it should be the kind of thing that comes with starter content, you know, like having some sort of humanoid that you can place into the world, but it doesn't. All you get when you are a first-person template is you get a pair of arms. And so this is not very useful if you're going to make targets in the world to shoot at, right? Like, there's just a hovering pair of arms that are coming at you, you know, so... the first-person character doesn't actually have a body, so you need to import a mannequin into the first-person template. And there's a couple different ways of doing that. This is one of the easiest ones. So inside of the mannequin directory that we imported, you can see that there is a mannequin folder and a female mannequin. Let's go to the female mannequin and click on character and mesh. And there's a couple different things in here. So every time you're going to be doing a skeletal animation means that you're animating the arms and the legs and the head of the person, which is different from, you know, this, where we just have the door going, you know, and opening up. There's a lot of different bones that are on a human being. There's all the phalanges, and you got your clavicles and your vertebrae and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of bones that move. And back in the day, back in the Quake days, what they would do is they'd actually just have a almost a different 3D model for every frame of animation. So you'd have a frame of animation with the character having an axe over the head, a frame of animation, and they're just different meshes. They're literally like first person, you know, like how you can have where's the starter content? Props, sure. So imagine that you have a chair, and then you've got a chair that has one of the arms slightly moving, and then a chair with the arm half off, and then a chair with the arm 3/4 off, then a chair with the arm all the way off. And so what you would do back in the day is you would have these different meshes, and it would just cycle the mesh on the object, and it would go bloop, 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 bloop. And it would look kind of lame, like low frame rate. It's really annoying to have to make a different model for every frame of animation. It's not very customizable. Like if you want to make the right arm fall off the chair, you got to make a separate one of those, unless you do clever tricks with like inverting the transformation matrix or things like that. And so what we typically do these days is if you have like a character like this, we'll do what's called skeletal animation. And so skeletal animation is all tied to a skeleton. So here in the female mannequin mesh directory, there is this thing called a skeleton. Okay, this is the key thing for every for any skeletal animation. They're all tied to the skeleton. The mesh, the thing that you see on top here, is actually not the important thing. So if I pull this down a little bit, you can see you got the skeleton, and you got a mesh applied to the skeleton. The mesh is just how you draw it. It's actually not really even that important. So you can actually switch out meshes just by clicking on, you know, like if you drag a compatible mesh over, it'll just change the entire appearance of it. And so it's very common to have one skeleton and then like 50 different meshes that animate on top of that skeleton. So do you guys understand? The skeleton is the boss. It's going to be what everything attaches to. So the artwork here attaches to the skeleton. And then when you have an animation, the animation does not animate the artwork. the animation animates the skeleton. Okay, so the animation says, hey, move this bone a little bit this way at this time. If I snap this up, you can see it's got, as it plays, you can see these different bones are moving, things like that, and it is attached to this skeleton. Okay, so animation's attached to a skeleton, a mesh, the picture attaches to a skeleton, and then it'll draw the mesh as it animates the skeleton. Then finally, you got this thing called physics on it, and that's used for doing ragdolls and things like that. You can specify how joints work. For example, I can move my hands around here just fine, and this arm can move kind of in this plane of motion, but I can't hyperextend my elbow, hopefully, backwards. Right? It would look very disturbing if I could reach my arm further around to touch my own shoulder that way, right? I can touch my shoulder this way. I can't bend my elbow backwards past the extent of the joint. And so all of the bones will have a weight associated with them. And pull that down. Yeah, so you can see there's a mass in kilograms for each of the different bones and things like that. So your head weighs 4 kilograms and things like that. And so the physics thing is used for doing ragdolls and collisions and things like that. So they create constraints on the body of a skeleton. So again, the animation doesn't really matter. We're just importing those. I'm not going to teach you guys how to make these today. So what's important though is the skeleton. So if you look at the skeleton, there's so many free things in the marketplace. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice, especially because they don't give you, as part of the starter content, just a normal humanoid shape, which is really weird. Like they give you a chair and they give you a lamp and they give you doors and stairs, but they don't give you a person. Like it's just a really weird choice. You get one if you make a third-person character template. It'll give you a mannequin with all the animations built on it already. Not for first person. I guess they figure you're not going to be fighting anyone. I don't know. It's weird. Right, most first-person shooters involve shooting other people. Okay, so how is the skeleton organized? You've got the root, which is, for Unreal, the root is 0, 0, 0. It's the origin of the coordinate space, the local coordinate space that we've talked about before. You've got, you just got the arms, yeah. Sorry, it's like on Pawn Stars. That's the best I can do for you. Can you give me a skeleton? Best I can do is 2 arms. And so in Unreal Engine, 0, 0, 0 on a character is right here. Okay, this is not a industry standard. If you use Adobe, the root is in the very center point of the model. So just be aware you might have to adjust these things if you import from other tools and stuff like that. There's also this really annoying thing where what axis the mannequin is looking down is not also standard. So you can see here the mannequin is actually looking down the y-axis, I believe. Yeah, and so if you were to drag this out into the world, it would be at a 90-degree angle from where you expect it, because most things are normally aligned along the x-axis. For whatever reason, Unreal has their mannequins aligned along the y-axis, so when you drag it out, it's going to be at a 90-degree angle from where you expect it. And so you just have to rotate it 90 degrees. I don't know why it is that way, but other tools don't. And so there's oftentimes some cleanup you have to do. I remember importing a mesh. We paid an artist to make art for us. And he used left-handed triangles when we had right-handed triangles, or the other way around. I don't remember which. So remember how he said you could tell which way is the front of a triangle if it's clockwise versus counterclockwise. So his mesh, we could see the inside of it, but not the outside. And it was just like, okay, all right, we need to fix that. And so you just have to clean it up. In Unreal Engine, it's pretty easy to clean up those kinds of things. Back in my day, I wrote a Vim macro that just moved all the points around. So if it went XYZ, I changed it to be ZYX or whatever it was. So it would delete 1 line and move it up 2 lines and paste it, and then go down 5 lines. And I just wrote a macro and reformatted the whole mesh. Easy peasy. Macros are cool and awesome and save you so much time. I could have written it in C++, but Or I write something in C++ when it'll take you half an hour when you just snap out a macro real fast. So what do we got? So we got this mannequin here, and the root is at 0, 0, 0. That's the origin. And so anytime you say get forward vector or get right vector, it's going to be in relation to the direction this mannequin is looking. Okay, so the beginning point of a skeleton, usually, not always, is the hip bone. And so the hip bone is the starting point of a skeleton. So if you move the hip bone, if I were to move the hip bone, using the translate tool here, if I were to move the hip bone, you'll notice that everything slides along with it, right? And that's from origin, right? So you can see the direction it is from the origin, from the root. Now, the spine is attached to the pelvis. This is called a child-parent relationship. So the spine is a child of the pelvis. And so if I move the spine, if I were to, for example, rotate the spine forward, you see how the figure bends forwards and backwards? Whoa. Whoa. Doesn't have those constraints we were talking about, right? So if I were to move the spine, it doesn't move the pelvis. And notice nothing below the legs moves either, right? That's because if you move the pelvis, everything moves. Whee! Right? But if you move the spine, because the spine is a child of the parent, it does not move the parent or other children of the parent. It's a parent-child relationship. Do you guys understand? If I were to move my hand, my elbow, if I move my elbow, my hand moves, but my shoulder doesn't move. Right? Does that make sense to you guys? And so there's actually 3 points on the spine that we usually care about. So there's the lower spine, the mid-spine, and then there's the upper spine. Right? So you can it kind of approximates the fact that you got a bunch of different vertebrae. Sometimes you'll see them create many, many more points along a spine. If you need like a snake or something like that, it's going to look really weird if the snake only has 3 points of movement. It'll look really angular and weird. You got the neck, which is attached to the top of the spine. So you move the head. Notice the rest of the body doesn't move. Little exorcism, you know. This place is clean now. Okay. And then you got your shoulders, which are listed as clavicle, and so you can move the shoulders around without the rest of the body moving. In other skeletal systems, it might just be called shoulder, things like that. You got the upper arm is attached to the clavicle to the shoulder. You've got the lower arm attached to the upper arm. So on and so forth. Okay. It reminds me of chivalry when you break your spine by looking up. Does it actually damage you if you do that? I'm making a soccer animation. There you go. Okay. People do it to dodge. That's funny. Okay. So that is your skeleton. Okay. And so it's rendering the skeleton using this mesh, but it doesn't need to. A skeleton is actually just the relationships between the different bones. What are you? Oh, it's in IK. All right. Okay. So those are not actual bones. They're that's the point at which the character's hand is going to be reaching out to grab the gun, and then that is the place the foot's going to be moving to, and that's where your gun is going to be attached to on the other side, I think. Yeah. Okay. So you guys understand, a skeleton is just a set of relationships. So the all the upper arm is you know, a relationship between the shoulder and the lower arm, really. Are you guys with me on this? Makes sense. Okay. So, how do we do animations? Well, an animation is just going to say something like, at time 0, the arm should be rotated none. At time 3, the arm should be rotated 90 degrees. That's all really an animation is. So if we go to the animation tab here, you can see there's a bunch of animations. Not a lot, because the military animation actually doesn't have that many animations for the female mannequin. But you can see that all an animation really is just a set of angles and positions over time. Okay. This is something called a blend space. And so for the blend space, it takes, in this case, just one axis. And so as the person starts walking faster, watch what happens. So this is, I think, the walk anim. Yeah. So they've got a couple keyframes on here. The first one here is the idle, where they're just standing. Then if you start walking slowly forward, you can see that it'll blend between the idle animation and the walking animation. Once you get to a speed of 93.5, it'll be using the walking animation. And then once you get all the way up here, it'll be using the running animation. But you see how it blends between them smoothly. So blend spaces are really cool. And you can set up, it doesn't just have to be one axis. You can set up multiple axes. Are you jumping? Are you running? That kind of stuff. And you can blend together different animations very easily using Unreal Engine. Which mannequin project? I added the... Where did Unreal Engine go? Epic Game Store. There we go. I added the military ones, and then I also added the animation starter pack. So, animation starter pack, I believe it's called. Yes. So, animation starter pack here has a ton of free animations. And are they compatible with the military mannequins? No, they're not, because they're different skeletons. Animations are tied to skeletons. And so even if you have two skeletons that are identical, if they're different skeleton files, then the animations will not copy over. You have to do something called retargeting to tell Unreal Engine how one skeleton converts to another skeleton. And in this case, you're going to say the clavicle is the clavicle, and the other clavicle is the other clavicle, and it's a pretty easy process, but you have to do it. And it's just kind of annoying that it doesn't recognize that every bone in the skeleton is exactly the same, you know what I mean? But the animation starter pack has, like, I don't know, 62 animations that you can use. And it comes with a mannequin, too. So let's close out of this one. And let's go into that one. So this is the military mannequins. Then if we go into animation starter pack, you can see that there's a bunch of animations here. And one thing you can actually do is you can actually just drag out an animation. So if you drag an animation out into the world, you can see that it will actually put the model associated with it into the world. You might be wondering, why is my mannequin transparent? It's because I was messing with it. So if we come into the mannequin folder here, go to mesh and go into the mannequin asset. So this is the skeleton. And so this mannequin has this skeleton attached to it. Okay. So SK stands for skeletal mesh, skeleton. So if we double click on that, you can see that it has that skeleton associated with that mesh. Okay. And that animation is associated with that mesh and that skeleton. Okay. So if we were to drag out a animation, it'll automatically put the mesh in there with the right skeleton attached. And the materials on it, I should probably put back on. Will that work? Yeah, cool. Right. So, yeah. So that's what I did. I might have to put it back on the original mannequin. All right. Yeah, somewhere in there you can set the default material. It's just hard to see with all this stuff on the screen. Asset details, there you go. So I set it to glass because I wanted it to look cool and be all like transparent and stuff, but I'll put it back the way it was before. What did I call? What was the name of that material? Just a second ago we saw it. Man body. Okay. And then for its chest logo, it's got a little Unreal Engine thing on there. Turn it to smoke. It's probably going to look terrible. So, yeah. So there is the skeleton tree, and then there is the your normal mesh inspector thing. Does that really not show anything? Set it to rock. Cool. I didn't realize those were so editable. Yeah, they really are. Let's just put it back into man. Chest logo, I think, was the original. Yeah, and so the there you go. We got the Unreal Engine logo on there. And so a skeletal mesh has a kind of a different mesh for each of the bones, if that makes sense. And so when you import a skeletal mesh, it will attach to a skeleton. And section selection. So, okay. And there you go. So there is the skeleton, and you can't really do much with it. You can adjust the physics on it. Yeah, that's about all that's interesting with that. So we'll save you and close out. And then if I were to drag out a new animation, death, you can see that it repeats, it loops the death animation over and over again. You can turn off looping if you want. Right there. So play it. That's it. So, yeah, you can just make objects in the world that are animated. That's very simple. In reality, what you're going to do is create something called an animation blueprint. And the animation blueprint will control what animation is playing. So it'll select between different animations. And if you don't want to go to that rigmarole, like if you just want to have, a character that just dies, you walk in and it falls to the ground, then you can just use an animation asset like that. And it'll just play, and that's it. Okay, so what I do want to show you guys today is how to attach things to the... this person shoot him. There you go. I'm going to show you guys how to attach things to the skeletons. Okay? And that'll be your next homework assignment for Thursday. All right. So we'll just do a little, very simple assignment for Thursday. Okay, and what that is going to be is you're going to add a socket to a skeleton. I'm going to show you guys how to do that in a second. And then you can attach things to the sockets. So you could have different weapons. So you don't have to have a skeletal mesh with a weapon in its hand. You can actually attach different weapons to the socket. So I've already got the sockets here. Well, let me show you what it looks like first. Thanks for auto-saving. So I imported the Infinity Blade weapons, which aren't really guns, unfortunately. Staff. Okay, Staff of the Ancients. All right. So if I drag out the Staff of the Ancients from Infinity Blade, this is also free. Epic gives you a lot of free stuff. So you can see this thing's like probably a little bit too big. So I'm going to move it up. I'm going to rotate it down. And I'm going to shrink it. So it's about the right size. Okay, that looks good. And I'm going to make the thing movable. And then I'm just going to click on the socket in the guy's hand. If that works. No. Okay, then we are going to attach to... what is this guy's name? We need to give him a name. His name will be Preacherman. There we go. So let's see if this will work. You... right click, attach to preach. Huh. does not want to attach to it. It's movable. Yeah, you see how this thing is attached here? You click on the object and then you click on the socket. It should attach, but it's not working. Maybe not working. So that guy is attached there. Hey, let me show you how to add sockets first. Oh, no, it was working. Was it working? Yeah, it is working. I did attach it. Check me out. Okay, cool. It just didn't say anything. All right, cool. All right, so then I just have to move it over the socket. So it'd be nice if it just like printed attached or something. Okay, so that is attached. No, it's not attached. Let's move it over the point here, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit so it fits inside the guy's hand here. And then, nope, still not quite aligned properly. Let's see here. It's floating a little bit above the hand. So I'm just going to drag it in here. This is like when I was trying to make the log bridge in Valheim the other day without snapping. It's kind of annoying. Okay, and there, yeah, it's still not lined up right. There we go. All right. And it's not synced up with the other hand, but you can see that the thing is moving with the guy's hand now. This one worked out a little bit better. Still not exactly lined up, is it? There you go. That looks better. Okay, so how do you add a socket to a mesh? That's going to be your homework assignment, so let's go over it. So there's actually two different things you can add sockets to. What is a socket? A socket is a place where you can attach a gun, or you can attach a backpack, or you can attach a hat. You know, if you've played Team Fortress 2, you know how big hats are. Robin Walker, who was the lead programmer of Team Fortress, he was an Australian computer science student, just like you guys. He released a mod for Team Fortress, called Team Fortress, for Quake 1 back in the day, like winter of 96 to 97, something like that. And Team Fortress became a worldwide phenomenon. That's how Jeff and I met. We were playing in Quake Clan together, Team Fortress Clan, technically. And they were hired by Valve Software to do Team Fortress 2. They ended up making classic Team Fortress for Half-Life 1, and then they came out with Team Fortress 2 eventually after Half-Life 2 came out. And he's worked on other things since then. And one of the things that he worked on was the microtransaction model for Team Fortress 2, making it a free-to-play game instead of a pay game. And unfortunately, the industry as a whole has... I don't like you. Has picked up on that model for better or worse, and mostly for worse, I think. The Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3 had multiplayer added so that they could do loot boxes and things like that. All right, so here we go. So let's make a socket. So why was I getting at that? Because Team Fortress 2 has hats. And so that was like the big thing that sold Team Fortress 2 or made the money, was you would put a socket on the top of their head and then you could attach a hat to it. So let's do that. So let me go back into my mannequins folder, animation starter pack, mannequins mesh. And there's actually two different things you can attach sockets to. The first is you can put a socket into the skeleton itself. So if you double click on the skeleton, you can add a socket to any of these bones. So let's make a hat. Or alternatively, you can attach it just to a mesh. So, for example, you might have the same skeleton for all of your humanoids, which is very common, because then you don't have to do different animations for each of the different things. You just have a humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, pretty straightforward thing. And so if you have like a Deadpool character that's using the same skeleton, Deadpool might have a bandolier and different things that he can attach to that the skeleton itself does not have. So basically, the only difference is if you add a socket to a skeleton, all the meshes using that skeleton will have it. Whereas if you add a socket to a mesh, only that mesh will have it. It's your choice which one you want to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a socket to the skeleton itself. And I'm going to click on the body part I want to add a socket to, which sounds a little weird, but there you go. So let's see. We want to, if we were to add a socket for, it's like in Lego, how like the Lego characters have like the little round thing on the top of their head. You can click a hat onto it, right? So which body part should I add a socket to? What do you guys think? If I want to make a hat slot, what do you guys think? Head, very good. So I'm going to click on the head, right click, and I'm going to choose add socket. And I'm going to call, and by default it's called head socket. I will F2 and change this to hat slot, because this is going to be used for hats. We're going to make millions of dollars selling hats. If it worked for Team Fortress, it can work for us. So you can notice that the hat looks, or the hat slot looks like this weird diamond-looking thing. So it's also right in the middle of the head. That's probably not where we want the hat to appear, right? So I'm going to just click on the Translate tool, and I'm going to drag the socket up, and I'm just going to put the socket right on the top of the head. That looks pretty good right there. Let's pull it forward a little bit there. Okay. So that's going to be where a hat appears. And then I just hit save. And there you go. And so now there is a hat slot on everybody who uses the UE4 mannequin skeleton. Okay. So if I were to drag out this mannequin here and rotate it, you'll see that there is a hat slot on it now. So just move him. He's just going to be T-posing behind the crouching guy. Not T-pose, A-pose, sorry. Looming. There we go. We could have an animation if we want. Use animation asset, animation to play. We will do the idle rifle. Okay, so the new guy here, he's just standing there idle with his invisible gun. Okay. And no hat. Okay, so if we want to attach a hat to it, which is what you guys are going to have to do for your homework, then you need to find a hat first. I don't know if I have any hats imported. Is there on the marketplace free hats? Let's find out. Hats. Variety of hats. Combo prompts. $100 for hats. That's like Team Fortress 2 prices for hats. Hats pack, $15. Variety of hats, $30. My goodness. Are there any free hats? That's the question I have. No! There are no free hats available. Okay, fine. Then make one with the cylinder. Nah, we're not. We do professional quality stuff. Jeff, ignore the giant chair here. I was like, I need a sentry gun. I don't have a mannequin imported yet. All right, the chair is the sentry gun. That's its head. All right, let's go. Or maybe the snowman. I don't know. Okay, so no, we're doing it professional. We're doing it professional here. So I'm going to add a flower. There we go. He's going to have a flower as a hat. And so what I do is I just move it up here. With the mesh selected, you have to make sure it is movable. If you do not make it movable, it will not work. It will not attach. Okay? So I'm going to click on the flower. I'm going to click on movable. And then if I right-click it, I should be able to attach it. Oh, I need to name this guy first, right? So this is going to be called... this one will be called Chops. So there's Chops. He's the leader of our Quick Clan. All right, so I'm going to right-click on this and choose Attach to. Let's see if it'll work this way. Chops. There we go. Attach it to chops, and then it brings up a list of the sockets that I can attach this flower to. So I'm going to attach it to the hat slot. Okay, so now when this person moves, the flower is going to move too. And you can see as the person is doing his idle animation, the flower is moving alongside of it. Doesn't look very good because I need to put it on his head, like I did with the last one. So I'm just going to move this over here, move this over here. It's a little bit too big for a hat, so I'm going to shrink it down so it's just a cute little flower coming up out of his head. And I will just move it over to here. Just make sure it's physically on top of the slot. Okay. Now when I hit play, you can see that the flower moves alongside of the top of the head. That's what you guys have to do for Thursday. Okay. And if I give this guy a different animation, if I give him the jogging right rifle animation, the flower moves along perfectly with it. Okay. We call it placeholder art. Yeah. Yeah, this is called Sherry. So this is guard Sherry. That's the name of our guard right there, because I didn't have the mannequins imported yet. And so Cherry there detects when you walk in front of it, and I think I have it turned off, but it was designed to teach him about how to do visibility testing and things like that. Might use your golden idol as a hat. Yeah, you get a lot of mileage out of that, so sure. You can attach any mesh to it, but it must be movable. If it's not movable, it will not work. Okay, that's that button right there. That's the one you guys got to hit. If you don't hit it, you will be disappointed when it doesn't work. Okay, Pikmin, yeah, yes. Okay, because it has to move. You can't attach a static object. Static means it doesn't move, right? If you try making it static, it'll probably break, maybe. What will happen? Interesting. So after you've attached it, you can make it static. Oh no, that's guard Cherry I made static. Ah, no, the flower. There we go. Yeah, yeah. And this is what happens when Cherry tries moving. It complains at you. Cherry needs to be movable. Thank you. Yeah. So same thing with that. Anything that's going to move in your game has to be movable. Static objects should only be used for things that don't move. That's why they're called static, right? And static objects are really important because you can have pre-computed visibility, right? And so you can anything that's not going to move, you can have it cast shadows. You can have it pre-compute the visibility to speed up your frame rate. It's actually really important to mark things as static that aren't going to move. But at the same time, when you drag something in and you want it to move and you don't mark it as movable, then yeah, it doesn't work. Okay. So that's your assignment. You guys have any questions? Welcome to Jurassic Park. So you're going to have to import a mannequin, a skeleton, make a socket, either on the skeleton or on the mesh. The process is the same for adding a socket to a mesh as on a mannequin, or on a skeleton. So come over here to mannequin mesh. So if you click on the mesh, you can right click and add a ring slot to the pinky. And that would just be on that mesh, or you can add it to the skeleton. And if you add a ring slot on that pinky, on the skeleton, then all meshes that use that skeleton will have a slot there. And so I've done things like added belt slots. You can attach different weapons to your belt, potions. You can have a bandolier with ammo on it, a backpack, and you can upgrade your backpack and have a bigger backpack. And yeah, you just put slots on there, and you can do it in Blueprints. Blueprints has commands to attach and detach things. So you can make it so you can drop your backpack and pick up a backpack. It's very easy. Just attach a slot, then the thing will be animated alongside of you. Okay. You're going to rewatch to follow step by step. Yeah. So step 1, find the body part you're going to make a slot on, like the middle finger. right click, add socket, middle, the bird, right? Step 2, move the socket over the place where you want the thing to appear. Let's put it over the middle there, like it's going to be a ring slot, right? It's not called the bird, it's called ring slot. And then save. And then if you want a ring, and so if you look at all these mannequins now, you'll see they're. Oh, you might actually have to enable that, by the way. I think the slots are hidden by default. Let's see, that would be under settings, enable socket snapping, predict snapping. Where is the... Somewhere there might be a view option to turn on showing the sockets. Let's see, visibility. Yeah, somewhere it might not show immediately, but even if you don't see it, it's not a big deal. You simply need to, like, if I want to attach a barrel to his ring finger, right click on it, attach to Preacherman on the ring slot, and then you just drag it over. Just drag it over wherever you want it to go, and then the object is going to be attached. Let's see here. You get the idea. So you basically just put the item on physically on the socket, and then it'll animate with it. If not, it'll look kind of weird. It'll be floating in space. Well, all the socket does is it makes that object a child of the bone. That's all it does. And so you just have to make sure that the transform, the offset to the object is 0, essentially. And it'll work. It will work just fine. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Thanks for coming out. Animations are cool and fun, and we will get started on making a game within Unreal Engine maybe next week. I think we'll probably do one more talk on animations tomorrow. I'm not an animator. I'm not an artist. I just use assets that other people make. So if you want help on Blender and things like that, yeah, I'm really not the right person. I made a spaceship once for a video game. It was 3 triangles, right? Like, don't ask me to to do these things. I'm a programmer, but I know how to use assets. So we'll do a little bit more with animation on Thursday, and then we'll get started on actually making a game. Like Jeff said, make a design document, pitch it to me, make it sound cool. You'll get to work in groups. We've had some people drop out, so we might have to refigure the groups a little bit to get teams of 4 or so together. And so just start thinking about what kind of game you'd like to make. You'll make the level for it, the blueprints to control all the game logic. So think about what kind of game it is. Is it a driving game, first-person shooter? Think about the genre. Think about what would make it fun. And that'll be maybe next Tuesday we'll start on that. So because you guys are going to have most of the tools under your belt now. Basic animations, nothing crazy. Oh, AI. We need to talk about AI too. But the basic ways of interacting with the game: touch, think, and trace line. You don't have enough experience with them yet to feel comfortable, and that's normal. But at least you know what they are. So you know that you can draw a line through the world and hit something. You can make it so that when you touch something, something happens, and you can make it so that you can think every frame and have a guard, see if you can see the player, that kind of stuff. We haven't done any nav mesh stuff, so we haven't done any like walking around. All these guys are just stationary right now. We haven't done any AI stuff, but most of the basics I think you guys kind of know by now, or at least a little bit. And so by putting a game together, you'll get experience on doing it and feel more comfortable and build your confidence and this kind of stuff. And then we will finish the semester by modifying Quake. So you'll actually have real source code to a real game, and you will the Quake 1 engine is actually pretty easy to understand, and you will create a online multiplayer network game that you and your friends will make. So that's how the semester will end, and don't be frightened by it. not as bad as it sounds. Okay. I also need to import the dummy from the third person. No, you can if you want. You can copy and paste the mannequin over, but if you do the anim starter pack, it comes with the mannequin. So I'll just do that one. Sometimes when you copy and paste things between projects, it doesn't work exactly right. Like I've seen students have issues when you don't go through the import process properly. So I would recommend just importing the anim starter pack and then just using that. Make a Blender class. I would like to. I can't teach it though. Can't teach it. I think they actually might teach. I think they might actually teach it at our college. There's a 3D sculpting class, 3D printing class, and so they probably teach Blender there, or something like that. Maybe Maya, maybe 3ds Max. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure they make 3D models and then they 3D print them. So they would have to, right? So if you want to get into that side of things, you can take that class. No, can't teach it though. I've brought in guest lecturers before that have taught Blender. One of our IT guys makes Counter-Strike weapons and skins and stuff like that. So he's taught a Blender day here before. Again, I'm not the right person to be teaching that. Cool. All right, that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot. Everyone, please give a round warm of applause to Jeff also for taking time out of his busy day to come educate you on the ways of the industry. Jeef.
Chief. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. You know, if you want to hear more about the production side and dealing with that, you know, I'm available.
Cool. That's very generous of you. Thank you. All right.
Very cool. Take care, you guys. Good luck.
Thanks, you guys. Adios.